Well, after one weekend, my Super Bowl pick of Saints-Chiefs is dead. My theory that Urban Meyer was a real candidate to be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, that is dead. And I'll say it, I think we can safely say, I don't know, it's never safe, but the New England Patriots dynasty does certainly appear to be dead. We'll get to all three of those topics. I should probably be dead after the beer and wings I consumed on Saturday night, but I lived through Wild Card Weekend to tell about it. We'll talk about that. We will look forward at this divisional round weekend, plus a few thoughts on overtime. That's been a big topic after the Saints-Vikings game. Speaking of which, we will talk about Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer. We'll talk about Mike McCarthy as he heads to Dallas. Tua Tagovailoa is going pro. And, of course, the Cleveland Browns coaching search. What can we say about it? We've got a few things that's coming up as well. It is the Good Old Football Podcast. I'm Matt Edwards, flying solo this week. It was a busy week. Before I knew it, Saturday had rolled around, and I didn't have anyone to be on. So here I am, just me today. Let's start with one of the Mikes I mentioned, Mike McCarthy, the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And how about Jerry Jones? So he interviewed Marvin Lewis on Saturday morning, the former Bengals coach. Mike McCarthy has a sleepover at Jerry's house on Saturday night. Then Jerry officially breaks it off with Jason Garrett on Sunday afternoon. Jerry playing the field on Wild Card Weekend. The old man still has it, doesn't he? Look, if I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm excited for one reason, and that's that Mike McCarthy comes in there with a chip on his shoulder. He took all of last year off, studied football a whole bunch. NFL Network did a nice little piece on that. And he had to take questions all year, and really for the past few years about, hey, dude, you've got maybe the most talented quarterback in NFL history, and you've got one Super Bowl ring to show for it. Oh, yeah, a rookie head coach came to Green Bay this year and went 13-3 with your team. I looked it up. McCarthy won 13 games just once with Aaron Rodgers, and they were together for 11 years. He underachieved, but Mike McCarthy's not an idiot. This is a prove-it job. This is really the prove-it job. He's got a coachable quarterback after dealing with the curmudgeonous Aaron Rodgers. Is that how you say that word? Curmudgeonous? You know what I mean. The cranky Aaron Rodgers for a decade. And now he's got a quarterback in Dak who we've seen likes to be coach, embraces coaching. So I think it's a good fit. Obviously, time will tell. But Jerry not going with a splash hire. You don't typically, if you look at it, I mean, at the end of the day, like Jason Garrett, it's kind of a boring hire, but it's one that makes total sense. Cowboys and Packers do not play in 2020, by the way. And look, I mentioned it right up top, the idea that Urban Meyer and Lincoln Riley, the idea that either one of them would come to Dallas, that's now over with. There might still be a college coach coming to the NFC East. We'll see what happens with Baylor coach Matt Rule, who is supposedly interviewing with the New York Football Giants this week. We'll see how that goes. I do think Jerry Jones kind of talking and letting the rumors stay out there regarding Urban Meyer and Lincoln Riley. I think those two things, he likes that, right? He likes to flex a little. He flirts with Urban, the legend who's available, and then Lincoln Riley, one of the new stars in college football. He talks with both those guys. Not necessarily, we don't know if he talks with them, but he let those rumors hang out there, right? He did nothing to shut those down. And if he wants something out in the media, he can get something out in the media. But like we saw with Jason Garrett, as I mentioned a minute ago, just kind of a boring hire. And I think it's one that works, and it comes after an incredible weekend of wild card football. Look, by the time Saturday evening rolled around, there were so many people calling for that Tennessee upset that I thought to myself, all right, New England just got beat by Miami. Everyone is laughing at them. They're going to come out. They're going to win by 3 touchdowns, right? That seems like the type of thing New England does. We're on to Cincinnati, that sort of thing. But it didn't happen. And look at it this way, all right? It's not just that they lost to the Titans. I want you to take a second, say this back out loud if you need to. In the last 2 weeks, in Foxborough, the Patriots have lost to Ryan Fitzpatrick and Ryan Tannehill in back-to-back weeks at home in games that mattered. In the last 2 months, the Patriots have faced all 4 teams that remain in the AFC playoffs. They're 0-4 in those games. That includes that beatdown in Baltimore. And they trailed by 3 scores against Houston before coming back and making a game of it. And here's the biggest thing that sticks out to me, and I think I had mentioned this a few weeks ago because I know I saw it against the Bengals. Tom Brady's arm is clearly fading. I mean, he is just missing wide open guys, which is incredible. We've never seen that from him before. Maybe back in the early days in his first few years when he was, a 6th-round quarterback who was trying to make it in the league, and obviously it worked out for him. And there's a lot of people hammering on Brady right now. Yeah, go ahead. Do that. Hammer on the, 43-year-old who's still doing more than you could do at 23, you piece of trash. Now, I won't put it past Tom Brady to travel to some remote town in Europe this offseason and have his muscles restructured by some dude who lives in the woods and has ate nothing but tree bark and tea for the last 6 decades. But right now, it looks like old Father Time has caught up with Tom Brady. And it looks, I mean, if you think back, I don't know how well all of you remember, but Peyton Manning, it's similar to what we saw with Peyton, where it's just like kind of out of nowhere, his arm's not the same. And it's incredibly obvious. He just did not have the same zip on the ball. That's the same thing we're seeing with Tom Brady right now. And I think it's hard for people to realize just how hard NFL quarterbacks throw the football. I think I might have told this story on here before. I was at Bengals training camp once, I think it would have been 2015, and I was on the sidelines, and A.J. McCarron, who is still alive in the playoffs as a Texans backup, by the way, he overthrew an out route. It took one skip off the turf and right into my calf, and it felt like someone hit me with a bowling ball. You have got to fire that pigskin in the NFL, and Tom Brady is not doing that right now. He doesn't have that velocity, that zip, as they say. He doesn't have the tangy zip that it requires to make it, especially in the cold weather, in the NFL. And it's an incredible thing to see because we've been here before. People forget that after 2004, the Patriots didn't win another Super Bowl till 2014? I think it was. They made a couple. Got beat by the Giants in 2007, got beat by them in 2011, and that's not to say they weren't great. They obviously went undefeated up until the Super Bowl in 2007. But he kind of had 2 dynasties in one career. He is the GOAT, but look, all GOATs got to go to the nursing home and do whatever GOATs do at the nursing home. So the Titans will go to Baltimore on Saturday night. Get ready for blood in that one. That's one of those ones that you have old flashbacks of the AFC Central, Eddie George versus Ray Lewis. Get ready for blood. I have a banquet on Saturday that I'm going to, so maybe I'll actually get ready for blood. In an intentional manner, I will fall down the steps so I can go back to my hotel room and watch the game. Remember how pro wrestlers used to have razor blades on them and it looked like they were going to help themselves and rub their head, but they'd cut themselves so they can bleed? Maybe I do that. Refuse medical treatment, go back to the hotel, pound some Dr. Peppers, and watch Titans Baltimore. That will be a fun one. I'm on the Titans bandwagon right now. I was on the Bills bandwagon, as I mentioned last week. And look, I thought they had it won. Everyone thought they had it won. But at the same time, I said on here, I think 2 weeks ago, Deshaun Watson was magic in the college football playoffs. I was curious, it's only year 3 for him. It does seem like he's been in the league 5 years already. This is year 3. And last week, we saw that magic that he conveyed at Clemson in the college football playoffs, still got it. And then the poor Buffalo Bills, man. They have made the playoffs just 3 times in the last 20 years. They've lost all 3, including that 16-point blown lead on Saturday in Houston. And then remember, this week is the 20-year anniversary of the Music City Miracle. That's a brutal loss. And then their other loss is to the stinking Jacksonville Jaguars. Just a brutal, brutal time to be a Bills fan. And by the way, they lost 4 straight Super Bowls to start the 90s. Rough outing. Texans now play at Kansas City on Sunday. I think the Chiefs are the hottest team in football right now. They won 7 straight to end the season. Remember, they lost by a field goal in Tennessee in Mahomes' first game back. Ever since then, 7 straight wins. I'm going with Kansas City for that reason, and because I picked them to win the AFC at the beginning of the year. Obviously, a pretty popular pick, but at least half of my Super Bowl bet is still alive. That's a good feeling, right? Seattle beat Philadelphia. Look, after watching the games prior to that, because Seahawks-Eagles was the last one, that first half was boring. After the After the shows that we got Saturday and then Sunday afternoon, Seattle-Philadelphia was a snooze fest. In the first half, it got better. But without Carson Wentz, it never really felt like the Eagles had a shot. You feel for them, you feel for him. You're to the point with him now where you have to wonder, is he going to be one of those guys where we look back in 10, 20 years and say, what if he would have been able to stay on the field consistently? That said, that game in general is why I'm such a Russell Wilson homer. When push comes to shove, the dude makes plays. And that's why I'm fine with him getting some MVP votes. Yes, Lamar Jackson is magic, but Russell Wilson should get to keep that trophy on the weekends, right? Russell Wilson means every bit as much to Seattle as Lamar does to the Ravens. And look, I'm going to go with Seattle to win in Green Bay on Sunday. Seattle has been in some real slobber knockers lately, and the Packers have been on cruise control for a while. Give me a first-year head coach, Matt LaFleur, coming out beating Pete Carroll. I just don't see it. And even at 13-3, the Packers 13-3 this year, I thought to myself, I can't remember like a signature win for them. Most teams, you can remember them being in some heavyweight fights. I went back and looked. The 13-3 Packers, aside from sweeping the Vikings, they did not beat a playoff team this year. They lost to the Eagles. They got murdered by the 49ers. Yes, they beat the Chiefs, but that's while Patrick Mahomes, the killer frog Patrick Mahomes, he was out in that game. Matt Moore played, and still I think Green Bay only won by a touchdown. So the 13-3 record I find a little bit misleading. They trailed the Lions for the majority of their 2 games against them. Look, I know that doesn't really matter. It's the NFL. Everyone's close. But I'm just not buying into the whole idea that the Packers are as good as their record. Seattle, on the other hand, battle-tested, as they say, in the business of battling. So I think Seattle's going to go in there and win. I think they'll make it to the NFC Championship. And, of course, we've got debate now about overtime again. And we seem to go through this every year because if the team that gets the ball first in a big game scores a touchdown, the other team does not get a shot on offense. And in this case, it was the Hall of Famer, legendary Boilermaker, Drew Brees. Look, I am fine with the overtime rules the way they are. Football is the ultimate team sport. You guys know that. You went to school. If your defense cannot stop an offense, so be it, man. This is the playoffs. The best teams advance in the playoffs. Having a good defense is part of being a good team. That said, while I'm fine with the rule the way it is, why not go to the college football rule? Why not for the playoffs? I say in the regular season, I get it. They're grown men trying to have long careers. They're monsters colliding. Give them a 10-minute quarter. I don't like it. I hate ties, which seem to now happen once or twice a year, but I get it. However, go to the college rules in the postseason. Maybe start at the 35 instead of the 25 because kickers are a good 10, 15 yards better in the NFL. And for the postseason in the NFL, go to the college rules. I don't know if the NFL is too proud to take rules from the NCAA or what, but I said it a million times. At the end of the day, the NFL is a television show. Why not make your television show more interesting? You keep the balance of getting both teams' offense and defense on the field. They'll both have their equal opportunities. You eliminate kickoffs, which the NFL has essentially already done. This is entertainment. This is reality TV. Entertain. This isn't that tough of a thing. I do think there's something. So Roger Goodell's been all about making rule changes in general, right? When his administration comes up with them. I genuinely have to wonder if because it's something college already does, that Roger Goodell, because the guy thinks that he is football, right? He certainly does not lack in the area of confidence, we'll call it. I don't know why they wouldn't consider that, but something that, again, I'm fine with the rules the way they are, but if I'm a Saints fan and I've been riding the back of Drew Brees for this long, I kind of want to see him get a shot in overtime. I get it. But go to the college rules in the postseason. Not that difficult, and it seems very fair. That's the thing. You want competitive fairness, it seems very, very fair. Not based on a coin flip, which is, kind of what overtime comes down to in a lot of situations. Now, with that said, the Minnesota Vikings absolutely did deserve to win that game. Look, man, if you think the football gods exist, you are wrong, because New Orleans, they are named the Saints And they've been through hell in 3 straight postseasons, despite having maybe the most likable dude who is a face of a franchise ever in Drew Brees. And the Saints have lost on the last play of a game in 3 straight postseasons now. And I talked about the Bills earlier. The Saints have had it rough recently. They have the Super Bowl win in 2009. But the Vikings, they're as tortured as any franchise. They're 0-4 in Super Bowls. Most people know that, but that was in the 1970s. It's easy to forget. This century, I didn't realize this until Monday, I think, when I was doing some serious research for this here podcast. The Vikings have made it to the NFC Championship 4 times in the last 20 years, 0-4 in those games. Pair that with the fact that in the 2015 wildcard game, Blair Walsh missed a 27-yard field goal, which most high schoolers can make, and he missed it to lose against Seattle in the final minute. That is torture. Losing and losing and losing and losing, that sucks. Detroit, Cleveland, that sucks. Lions have won 1 playoff game since 1957, by the way, and that sucks. But for Minnesota to get that close that many times, anytime you lose in the conference championship, it is a straight kick in the nuts. It's Cristiano Ronaldo winding up and just hammering you right down Broadway. To do it 4 times in the last 20 years, everyone's sitting here and telling me how bad they want Drew Brees to get another Super Bowl, and I am one of those people. I like Drew Brees. Nice seemingly guy, Big Ten guy, saved a franchise that, the Saints before he got there were the toilet of the NFL, really. They called them the Aints. But if there's a team you can be okay with knocking them off, it is the Minnesota Vikings. Good for Mike Zimmer, who, by the way, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns both could have hired as head coach. They passed. He has 1 losing record, does Mike Zimmer, in 6 years coaching in Minnesota. Year 1, I think he went 7-9, winning record every year since. And if not for that 27-year-old field goal that Blair Walsh missed in 2015 against the Seattle Seahawks, he would be 3-0 in first-round playoff games. In his first playoff game of the season, I should say. So, and look, we saw it on Sunday. That seemed like the cakewalk game on Sunday, right? Everyone's kind of like, yeah, Saints will beat the Vikings. That'll be the one that we don't have to worry about. Everyone's going to count the Vikings out against the 49ers. Look out, San Francisco. Minnesota feels good about themselves. Went on the road, beat a Hall of Famer in his own house. Old James Garoppolo not scaring Minnesota. That's going to be one of those games where maybe 2 defensive touchdowns decides the winner. Like, we might see more defensive touchdowns in that game than we see on offense. Because Kirk Cousins, look, here's the thing. I'm going to go with 2 road wins this weekend. I'm going to go with Seattle, and I'm going with Minnesota. I like both of the road teams in the NFC to win, which, by the way, would mean that the Vikings go to Seattle in the NFC Championship. Wouldn't that be something if the 2 wildcard teams played for the NFC Championship? That's my prediction, which, as you know, means nothing. But if Minnesota does do that, it'll have to ride on the shoulder of their defense. Because, look, everyone's riding on Kirk Cousins right now, and he made some excellent throws in overtime. But there were some throws early in that game. What was he doing? Like, he would have a clean pocket, and the ball would land 8 yards shy of his receiver. It's like he got stung by a bee as he was letting the ball go. It's so... I don't know how it happens. It's amazing to me. It's always amazing. And look, being an NFL quarterback's hard. But when you have a clean pocket and the ball just hits the ground? Whatever. The final play of that game, a lot of people want to talk about the officiating. I was fine with it. It's a 50-50 call. Be aggressive in that situation. And look, I'm to the point where I'm really just ready to get rid of pass interference altogether. Let these dudes hammer each other as they go down the field. Give them weapons if you want. Baddest dude on the field wins. That'll never happen. Tua Tagovailoa declared for the draft on Monday as we transition. Someone's going to go up and take him. Someone's going to hope he's the next Lamar Jackson. Now, the real story is going to be how high does he go. People forget the last 2 years, Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray both projected at this point in the year to be like top 15 picks. Maybe a month or 2 before the draft, and especially with Baker Mayfield, teams, we're still wondering, is this going to be a top 10 guy? If we hang around till 12, can we get him? Then all it takes is one team to fall in love with them, and both Baker and Kyler went number 1 overall. Now, I don't think that happens this year because I think Joe Burrow has been so good that the Bengals will not pass on him. But mark my words, unless that hip injury turns out to be much worse than anyone thinks, Tua will be a top 5 pick. And I don't think there's any doubt about it. The Dolphins, the Chargers, Panthers are sitting there. Dolphins 5, Chargers 6, Panthers 7. All three could be in the quarterback market. Dolphins and Chargers almost certainly are. And it may just be a bidding war to see who can go up into the top 4 and get them, with the Bengals picking 1 and Washington picking 2. How bad does Washington want Chase Young? And if I'm the Chargers in a new stadium in a city where it seems like really no one in LA realizes that the Chargers exist, like they think they're an AFL team still hanging around, maybe the Chargers want to make that move. Maybe give up the farm to get a star, plus Tua, a Hawaii fellow. He wore a Hawaiian shirt to announce he was going pro on Monday, which honestly I think should be standard protocol. If you are going to make a big announcement and you're wearing something other than a Hawaiian shirt, I've got a lot of questions about your decision-making in life. You have to think he would be thrilled with going out to the West Coast. I think his parents are currently living in Alabama, but one would not imagine that is the long-term play for Mr. and Mrs. Tagovailoa. We'll see what happens there, but certainly that throws a wrench in the draft and will make everything so much more fun. But again, he's going to end up a top 5 pick unless that hip is much worse than anyone thinks. Someone is going to go up and get him. So, from rookies to coaches, obviously Mike McCarthy, we talk about him at the top of the show. Cowboys vacancy is filled. I think all eyes now turn to Cleveland as the Browns look for the guys they'll fire 2 years from now. There's like 7 guys they want to interview. It is laughable, but what else would you expect? Josh McDaniels, the Patriots offensive coordinator. He's the interesting option there, especially with McCarthy now gone. McDaniels fleeced the Colts a couple years ago. He turned down the Bengals last year. The Bengals wanted to interview him, and he laughed and said no. I don't know if he laughed. I bet he laughed. And so it's tempting for McDaniels, I'm sure, who is from Canton, less than an hour south of Cleveland, to be the savior of the Cleveland Browns, who just cannot get out of their own way for the last 25 years. But I think the only one who can save Cleveland is Jimmy Haslam by getting the hell out of the way and letting this thing develop. And look, I know that's not that original of a take, but you clearly don't know what you're doing, James. I mean, if you've baked 5 pies and they all taste like burnt hair and charcoal, get out of the kitchen, dude. Let someone who knows how to cook make the meal, Jimmy. Not that difficult of a thing to figure out. So we'll see if he gets out of the way, because he is, what's the word, poison? He can't seem to figure it out. Speaking of poison and things that haven't gone well, former AFC North people, let me put my headphones on here. Did any of you happen to hear the Antonio Brown rap song that was released, as I go to find it, on Monday? Old AB, in his second career, now going hip-hop. Let me play a snippet for you here.
I got a whole lot of money, I got a whole lot of money, I got a whole
Oh, yeah.
I got a whole lot of money, I got a whole.
So apparently, Antonio Brown has a whole lot of money. There's a video for this on YouTube. Just search "whole lot of money." Oh yeah, throwing it around. There's candles. I don't know why these women are wearing masks. That seems culturally inappropriate, Antonio. Ooh, this is good, huh? This is top 40 stuff. Oh, a lot of $100 bills. All right, that's enough. I mean, just kind of ridiculous. Kind of ridiculous, Antonio. Handing money out, passing. Why are they wearing masks? Why are the women? Why do they have to cover their face? It's 2020, man. This dude. Anyways, that's the new Antonio Brown track, "Whole Lot of Money," which is what he is glad to have, apparently. And when you got a whole lot of money and a whole lot of time, you can do things like convince yourself that you are a rapper, and it's only a 2-minute song, right? Like how long and really about 1:40 of that, he's just saying a whole lot of money. Whew. Well, do what you got to do. There are worse things Antonio Brown could be doing right now. I'm sure everyone who worked on that music video had a great time working with old AB. Business is booming, apparently. So, business booming in Pittsburgh. We'll see what happens I'm trying to click Twitter here and make sure nothing crazy has happened in the last 25 minutes I've been recording this, because that tends to happen from time to time. We'll see what happens with the Browns. They've got so many guys to interview. I can't imagine we'll hear anything on that before Friday unless Josh McDaniels gives them some sort of ultimatum. You would think that would be the only issue there. And then you're going to have Kevin Stefanski coming in there. I think Eric Bieniemy. There's so many people. They've got like the Cowboys run game coordinator, whose name I can't remember, Chris something I want to say. A lot of folks going in there for that Cleveland job. We'll see if they get it right this time. But, if history is any indicator of the future, what's that? If the past is an indicator of the future, my brain's going, people. My brain's going. All right, you can find me on Twitter. Short episode this week, but, it's only 4 games. You can find me on Twitter at Matt Edwards. I've had a lot of fun on Twitter recently. It's always better during the times of the NFL playoffs. Got off during the Golden Globes on Sunday night because I'm not going to go down that road. I'm at Matt Edwards on Twitter. Instagram, trying to get better at. I've been saying that all year. It's not that I'm bad at it. I just don't care. But it's at Good Old Matthew. Let me know how you feel about the show. Rate it if you haven't. Subscribe if you like it. Share a clip. Tell people about it. It's on YouTube as well, I hope. And enjoy it. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Check out Auto Magic as they play us out. Maybe they got a whole lot of money. It's the Good Old Football Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in.